Today, we are going to be dealing with a timely topic.
Yes.
We recently received a specific question, and I think it's appropriate. And I think it's a really good one to kind of dive into today. And would you help me out with that question?
Yes. The question was, I'm scared of taxes and making a big mistake. I'm terrified of being punished for doing something wrong without knowing. So it's such a great question. So to the person who sent that in, thank you so much, because I know that this will apply to others as well. And taxes, obviously, one of the biggest topics as a business owner, especially as a new business owner, to kind of grasp it all. And when you're changing countries, I know for me to get used to the way taxes work in America was a massive thing because there's all different kinds of things here, whereas in the UK and South Africa, it is different. We want to home in, first of all, on that feeling of I'm frightened. So this person who's asking the question is scared of making mistakes and being punished for making mistakes that she doesn't even know she's making. And that makes perfect sense. However, the interesting thing here is that different people will have different experiences of taxes and everything else. So whether this is about taxes or whether it's about something else in your business that you're worried about or that you're not sure how to do or you're overwhelmed or frightened of, we're going to give you three parts to this answer. The first part is recognizing that for this person, she's frightened of it. Another person may just feel irritated they have to do taxes. Another person may feel angry. Another person may feel, it's fine, just get it done. It's a good feeling when you've got it done. Another person, like me, can actually enjoy it. I actually enjoy the process because my brain loves that way of thinking. So it's going to be different for different people. Now, the key here is what makes the difference between those people. It's not the taxes, because the taxes is a separate thing, it's outside of them. So each of us, when we think of a particular thing like taxes or anything else, the brain is referring to implicit references or unconscious references about what this means, what taxes or doing taxes means to me, what it means about me, what it means about the world, all of that. So our self-image and worldview. So for this particular person, as she's thinking about doing taxes or as she's going to try and do them, her brain is referring to evidence from her childhood, implicit childhood memories that prove she's in danger. And of course, it's not to do with taxes because she wasn't doing taxes as a child, presumably, but the reference is there, the connection is there. So something about doing taxes. Now, it could be that she was in trouble for not knowing how to do her homework, or that her parents blamed her for things she had no control over. We don't know at this stage what those references are, but there will be some kind of proof in the unconscious part of her brain that proves. So it means that when she looks at doing taxes, her brain is referencing those childhood memories and then triggering stress chemicals in her system that create the feelings of fear. And because what's in front of her right now is taxes, her conscious mind thinks it must be about the taxes. So the idea is to change those original references so that they prove she's not in danger, and then automatically her brain won't be triggering those stress chemicals. Have you ever had an experience of taxes?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And yes, much earlier in my business history, my business career, I had completely different business altogether and didn't have what we currently do now. I didn't have an understanding that my reactions, my relationship with taxes at the time, and I know that there were some other things, like you mentioned, that we had these unconscious or subconscious programs running in the background that we're not even aware of. And for me, specifically about taxes, I had this fear. I'm not even sure that I would have necessarily been able to vocalize that, I was afraid, but certainly my actions, now that I look back on it, my actions were definitely all about somebody who was afraid to even look at what was necessary in terms of paying taxes. So long story short, I ended up having, this was probably back in, 2010, 2011, the best year on record. I had finally felt like I had broken through the ceiling. At that point, it was an incredible amount of money. But what I was not doing in the background was talking to my accountant on a regular basis and changing up what needed to be done. At the end of the year, I ended up getting hit with like a $12,000 tax bill that I should have seen coming, was completely unprepared for, et cetera, et cetera. So now looking back at it in retrospect, I can see that there were these unconscious programs running because of, and we've done work on that. I've done work to be able to clear that or change that, but there was this implicit fear that was running in the background about taxes, about dealing with money, about feeling competent, etc.
Right. And so what was happening then is your brain was referring to whatever those unconscious references were, and then causing that fear so that you wouldn't look at what you needed to do, so that you would end up in that situation.
Yeah.
Fear does not keep you safe. Fear keeps you stressed. So fear keeps you in a state of fight, freeze, flight, of course, and that affects your cognitive thinking, which brings us on to the second part of what we want to share on this topic. This person who wrote in to us, who sent us this question, and of course, Steve as well, in your previous business, the fear that they're feeling is not just about feeling frightened. And it's not even about consciously going, oh, yeah, no, I don't want to look at it. It's the fact that the stress chemicals that cause fear also cause blood to drain from the prefrontal cortex of the brain to the back of the brain. And the prefrontal cortex is where we do our cognitive thinking. So you need that part of your brain in order to do the taxes, in order to understand, to comprehend the information, in order to calculate, in order to problem solve, in order to think of the things that you need to do. You need that prefrontal cortex of your brain, and that is what goes offline whenever we're feeling any negative emotion. So it's kind of like spinning your wheels in the mud. You can't use that part of your brain, but you need that part of your brain in order to get the job done effectively. So the first thing to do is to bring down the stress chemicals in your system and get your brain creating feel-good chemicals like endorphin, serotonin, and oxytocin. So doing things you love, listening to music you love, going for a walk, listening to an uplifting audiobook, playing with a pet, watching comedy, whatever helps you to feel those good feelings. And as you feel those good feelings, you'll know, okay, the prefrontal cortex is starting to come back online. Then you can address whatever it is you need to get done in your business and with your taxes.
And I know that as we gain more access to the prefrontal cortex, another part of the work that we want to address is actually going back and looking for those references. So for me, I know that one of the connections for me was a feeling of not being competent with money.
Oh,
And just the thought of balancing my checkbook was a fear-inducing experience. And the thought of doing taxes or, getting those figures to my accountant at that time was another fear-inducing experience, just because there was this underlying implicit program running from childhood that I didn't have the competence to handle money, and which didn't make any logical sense. Because during that time, I was actually an associate professor teaching in a machine shop, teaching apprentices how to apply trigonometry, doing really some high-end mathematics. So it didn't make logical sense that I couldn't handle very basic mathematics. Yeah, accounting. And it didn't line up consciously. So that becomes kind of a red flag that what you're dealing with is not a logical issue. It's not a conscious problem. It kind of points at the direction of where those implicit memories are, where those stories are from childhood that actually need to be changed. And having your prefrontal cortex online and engaging in doing this work is the key. That as we do that work to change what we're holding from our childhood, change what it feels like from childhood, then those triggers become less, and or you're also able to deal with those triggers in the moment as they're happening, as instead of allowing your prefrontal cortex to go offline. And then you're just operating from the reptilian part of the brain.
Right. And so once that part of your brain is back online, which means you're feeling good, so do whatever it takes to feel good. And as Steve mentioned, the key is to change those references so that your current experience is different. And we do have a free masterclass that goes into that in detail. The link to that is in the description. So if you go to that webinar or that masterclass, that will go into detail on how these references are formed and how to change them. In addition to that, once you've got your prefrontal cortex online, which means you're feeling good, changing those references will help you to feel good as well about this topic. Once you're feeling good, then you can figure out, ask yourself, okay, so what information or resources or support am I missing right now? So the brain tends to predict the future based on the present, which is determined by the past. So while you're feeling frightened, I don't know what to do, or I'm scared I'm going to make a mistake, or I don't have all the information, or I don't have the skills, whatever those fears are, your brain is assuming and behaving as if that's all there is. This is going to be it forever. And it takes conscious intention and overriding that survival state to remind yourself that just because that is the situation now doesn't mean that's all there is. I can get the things, I can learn the skills, I can get the qualifications, I can get the help. It's just that right now my brain is assuming I'm going to stay the same. So, but once you're in that feel-good state, then you can make a list. Okay, how do I get the information I need? Who can I reach out to for help? Who's perhaps had this experience before? Do I need to consult with a professional? Is there somewhere else I can get the resources and so on? And make a list of what you need. Don't worry about how you'll get it yet. Just make a list of what you need. And every time you start to feel that fear again, stop. Imagine pressing pause in your brain and go and do something that feels good, and then only come back when you've got that part of your brain online, which means when you're feeling good. And then again, take one step at a time. Okay, so this first thing, how do I get that? Or what are my options? And if you can't think of anything, ask someone. There are forums and groups and things online. Many of the tax people have Q&A and that kind of thing. So you can get the help, but you need that strategic part of your brain online to be able to come up with those solutions.
Yeah. So we've given you, some helpful, quick firefighting tips, to be able to kind of get your prefrontal cortex back online. But the key to this is really diving in and looking at what those implicit childhood memories are that are actually causing the reaction in the first place.
That's it. I just wanted to also mention, when you were talking about your concerns about your feeling incompetent about money and not wanting to think about taxes and that kind of thing, that was all before Steve and I met. So that was before we met and before we'd each changed our own references, our own implicit childhood memories. And I was just realizing that when it came to the first tax return that we were together, I was really confused because American taxes are completely different to what I'm used to. You were the one actually who came up with the spreadsheet, and it was all organized because you had to do it because I didn't know what to do. There was no sign of those old fears or old beliefs of being incompetent or anything.
No, it is a complete shift from where I was, 10 plus years ago. And it was just recognizing that it was changing up what I was holding about that belief system, that what I felt, what I believed about myself, that interaction that I had with money, all of that. As I changed that, it's like all of that fear was gone.
Yeah. So check out the masterclass so that you can do the same for your own brain. And we will see you again next time.
Have a wonderful rest of the day.